My first love, as you know, is Scripture. In fact, I've been in direct communication with David Koresh. In fact, there's a lot to what David Koresh is telling the world these days, Bob. Don't forget, let's look at the metaphor of David Koresh. For example, a man derided, a man scorned, a man hunted. He claims to be the Christ. And Bob, can you deny, in fact, that the facts of this case, this man who is being hounded by the authorities, persecuted by the authorities, does he not call to mind the trial and suffering of our dear Lord?
You know something, Il Supremo? I really think you're losing it completely.
Bob, I don't blame you. You're a man of the temporal world. I am a man of the metaphysical ether. Look at the difference between us. You're a man who deals in reality. I have no patience to deal with reality. I'm looking beneath the existential layer. I'm trying to unfold the layers of the onion to get to the real meaning of life. Bob, have you read Teilhard de Chardin? Bob, have you ever really pondered the writings of Cardinal Newman?
You know why I'm laughing? I'm laughing because you're so pretentious. You're so pompous.
Bob, believe me, my first love is the Bible. You say I'm pompous. It seems to you that I'm pompous because I'm in another plane from you. I'm in another plane than the people of this state.
What if Slick Willie should do what I predict he won't do and appoint you to the Supreme Court? Huh? What would you do then, Spachim?
Bob, I'm going to put on those robes and I'm going to turn my collar around and pretend that I am a priest, which is what I've always wanted to be, as befits a man of my spiritual and earthly purity.
You might be the first layperson made a cardinal. What do you think about that?
Bob, I would be honored to put on the vestments of my church, even though in real life I defy most of the teachings of my church.
Isn't that the truth?
It's tame.
Well, you can't really compare. You can't really compare.
No, the men's room, you know.
You know, you can't. Well, that, yeah, but you can't compare me with somebody like Imus or Stern because these guys are clowns. These guys are clowns that nobody takes seriously.
You are right.
Unfortunately for me, I'm taken seriously, and therefore what I say, there's a reaction to.
Right.
But they know that these two guys. One guy's been a pillhead, a junkie, a drunk. The other guy is a sexual degenerate.
Absolutely.
They're both morons as far as I'm concerned.
No, Bob,
I appreciate the kind words, the compliment. But on the other hand, I think of all the people who are making much more and getting national attention doing interviews, I think of Charlie Rose, who just, I cannot watch him.
Man is a joke.
I just cannot watch him. I just cannot. Now we are being subjected once again to Tom Snyder.
Another joke.
Yeah. So therefore...
Larry King, the biggest joke.
Well...
Never asked a tough question in his life.
Yeah, well, he's an absolute moron.
But I just had his... Oh, he sort of competes with him.
Yeah.
They're
both lowlife.
Absolutely.
Oh, you know, the only thing that I can say, though, that Stern cannot... Mel Karmazin, Mel Karmazin, Mel Karmazin, Mel Karmazin. You know why I'm doing that?
What?
Do you know that Stern is forbidden to say the name of the head of his company, Mel Karmazin?
No kidding.
But I like Mel because Mel shows good taste. He tried to hire me many years ago. Signed a long-term deal with Steinbrenner. Herr Steinbrenner. To carry the banal, incessant, loud ball games. Therefore, those of you who tune in to hear something worthwhile, such as the Bob Grant Show, you will not hear it at the regular time. We'll come on after John Sterling screams and hollers and goes ballistic while talking about a bunch of ball players who couldn't give a damn about him. An astonishing war of words and deeds is being waged between Slick Willie and the maverick senator from Alabama. The verbal torpedoes fired by the courageous Democrat Senator Richard Shelby after the unveiling of Clinton's economic plan in Congress. This all came despite a plea for Democrats to wait 3 days before voicing their criticisms. Shelby, the lone Democrat to vote to let Senate Republicans continue their filibuster of the $16.3 billion spending package, didn't bother waiting. The taxman cometh, he immediately told reporters. Well, those words were still stinging Clinton, Slick Willie, the next day, when Shelby met with the cigar store Indian himself, better known as Vice President Al Bohr, and then headed for even deeper trouble when a reporter asked about Slick Willie's program. Senator Shelby, courageous and honest, said, it's high on taxes, low on cuts. And his reply shocked the cigar store Indian with a soundbite that was featured all over Alabama and on NBC Nightly News. Slick Willie said nothing about Senator Shelby in public, but the president's deeds make his feelings clear enough. First, get a load of how petty this guy is. More than 90 jobs in a $375 million NASA program were relocated from the Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama, to the Johnson Space Center in Houston. And on a more personal level, Senator Shelby received just one ticket for Slick Willie's visit to the University of Alabama, while his senior colleague, Senator Howell Heflin, was given 15.
Yes, good afternoon, Bob. I'm a corrections officer, and I would just like to echo the words of your last guest on your newsbreaker line. The conditions on Rikers Island are absolutely worse than the conditions, I believe, that exist in the state facility, and that's due mostly to the fact that we have a men's room attendant in office instead of having a mayor. Catherine Abate, since she's been appointed Commissioner of Corrections, has done everything she can to dismantle every thing that we have to keep the jail secure. I frequently have feces and urine thrown at me in the area that I work, since I work with very high classification, very violent criminals.
Oh, boy.
If we were to look at an inmate chart to find out if this inmate is HIV infected, we will be immediately suspended for violating his right to privacy. It's an ongoing thing. These inmates that we house are the most violent in the city, and it's not uncommon, since they are HIV infected, for them to act up. What do they have to lose? They have nothing to lose. And also, many of them are simply, jealous human beings, since they couldn't live a normal life and be law-abiding citizens. They don't want to see anyone have a happy life and raise kids and be responsible parents. And Catherine Abate and the men's room attendant have done everything that humanly possible to make the job worth more or worth less than it actually is.
Oh, boy. Okay, Bobby, thank you.
Thank you.
Jobs removed from Huntsville.
Yes.
And this thing, I mean, just to point up the media's hypocrisy on things like this, they mentioned it almost in passing last night that this guy got punished, whacked on the hand, what have you, for not going along with Clinton's tax and spend plan.
Yeah.
But had this been a Republican, let's say George Bush had done something like this, how long do you think it would take for them to have every one of these 90 people on the air crying about how their jobs have been lost, about how they can't get a job now, or they have to relocate to Texas?
Yeah, it would have been the lead story on every newscast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is this guy that walks around saying how, he cares about people and everything. He didn't punish this senator. He's punishing these 90 people.
That's right. There you go. You got it.
And it's a bunch of garbage.
You got it.
I'd like to talk about Mayor Dinkins.
Yes?
I'm sick and tired of Buckley pandering all the criminals in the city, and I feel that the only way we can stop this is by giving you a license to have a clitoris.
On WABC, I didn't understand that, but I have a hunch there's nothing I want to understand on that. Phil from Old Bridge. Hello, Phil.
Good evening, Mr. Grant.
All right.
The testimony.
Okay,
live
Phil.
Testimony. Oh, incidentally, Bob, one last thing.
Yeah.
I was at the Reo Diner today, and I had lunch there, and I sat at the counter. And to my amazement, it's the first time I ever stopped there. Scrambled eggs and home fries cost $3.50, and I left the girl a tip, which is $4.50. I think that's kind of high for scrambled eggs.
On WABC, you might know that this guy Phil of Old Bridge would never be satisfied about anything, anytime, anywhere. He's just that kind of a oddball who claimed he used to go to a dance held on Friday night, which he never went to. Strange. I've been taking calls from Phil for many, many years. At times, I put him in the persona non grata category, then he comes out. but he's just a weirdo, lowlife, and he'll call again, but he'll take a vacation from calling, which, hey, that's the first good news I've had in quite a while. This portion...
Very shortly. PhD in mathematics, 10,050 people. 6 PhD from the black community. 6 PhD in 1,050 people is, as you say many times, irrelevant. Doesn't mean anything, as almost is below 1% of 1/10 of 8% from those people. Then 50% drop out on the bigger cities of United States. 50% drop out, and for example, take a poor country from Europe, like my country, Romania, or Poland, or some other country, is 87 to 89. They finish their high school.
Right, you are. Thank you very much, Silvio. Send in a translation, and I will read it to the audience so we'll know what you said. Thank you. Here on WABC, I don't know if I'll have time today, but I want to read you a questionnaire sent out by a racist by the name of Larry Seabrook, who unfortunately is a member of the New York State Assembly. And we have a member of our technical staff here who is a constituent of, and he has given me a form that Larry Seabrook gives out. Get the digitalis, Ma. As we move into the 21st century, our world is becoming more and more diverse. With respect to education, history books are being rewritten. Do you feel they really and honestly address the myriad of cultures that have contributed to shaping our nation? 12. As a result of global European domination and colonization, our children have been exposed to a Eurocentric explanation of history. Should this be continued, or should schools teach how we are affected by African, Asian, Middle Eastern, Native American, and Latin American nations, which existed long before the Europeans began their explorations? Get a load of this now. Get a load of this. 14. Do you feel the truth about slavery should be taught to students? Should they be made aware that Abraham Lincoln's signing of the Emancipation Proclamation was intended solely to preserve the Union at all cost? Freedom for slaves was more or less a byproduct, which was done only as a means to prevent war. And 15, what are your thoughts regarding bilingual education? Should English be the national language? And then it says, fold and mail to Assemblyman Larry Seabrook, room 542, Legislative Office, Albany, New York, 12248. Well, I would say, Larry Seabrook, there's a plane leaving for Nigeria at 12:05. Why don't you get on it, get a one-way ticket, get the hell out of the United States. You don't like this country. You know, this whole thing, this whole Rodney King travesty is so completely out of proportion. It's so far removed from the reality of the original situation that even those people who are trying to be fair about it have difficulty putting it in perspective. You would think that these guys murdered this scumbag. You would think they killed him.
You would think they grabbed him out of an ice cream counter and decided to beat him up. He was doing something that was disgusting. He was jeopardizing everybody's life.
Right you are. Thank you for the call. You're going to have a full sports talk program, and tonight is going to be the real McCoy. It's not going to be some throwback to the 1930s. You're not going to hear the lineup of the 1934 St. Louis Cardinals. You are not going to hear somebody who's kissing tush of the liberal establishment. Instead, you're going to hear a guy who is unique because he doesn't march in lockstep with the politically correct. And I'll never understand why 99% of all the sportscasters are the biggest liberals in the world. Maybe it's because they're ignorant about anything that isn't involved with sports. This guy's no Bob Raisman. He's no Phil Mushnick, thank God. He's no Ira Burko, who never met a left-wing radical he didn't love. He's no Robert Lipsyte, who might very well have voted for Nikita Khrushchev if he were able to. He's Steve Malzberg, ladies and gentlemen, Steve Malzberg. So you know that sports talk tonight will be worth listening to.
I have a picture of this maniac who was menacing a mother and her baby and indeed stabbed the baby with a pen.
Oh, listen, don't bring that up. You know why? Because instead of focusing on the little baby who was stabbed, they say he knew he needed help.
Well, that's what infuriated me. He knew he needed help. It is we who need the help against these marauding maniacs all over the streets. I think that Janet Reno could have written this front page. Perhaps he had a traumatic childhood that caused him to do this, and we have to understand.
Well, what we ought to do is contact Janet Reno, providing she's not busy with Martina Navratilova at the moment, and tell her to indict the mother of the baby, because if the mother of the baby hadn't been walking in front of this guy, he wouldn't have got upset.
Indeed.
Yeah. A little closer to another unnecessary interruption. Jim, hello.
I don't know if I'm talking today to Quizmaster Bob or to Sports Doctor Bob. I mean, here you go again this week. You have nothing on but sports talk. You've been talking now for 20 minutes to different people about the Yankees.
What's on your mind today, Jim? Anything?
Yes. I just wanted to let you know you have W.C. Field's voice, you have Gary Coleman's body, and you have Bela Lugosi's hair.
On WABC, let's say hello to Wayne.
It seems when a man and woman have sex, it seems that according to the man, he's getting sex, but he's not really giving anything. He can't conceive of himself as giving anything to the woman. He's always paying for it, and he thinks this is fine. That's my door, but let me just finish.
You are finished
when a woman
in
has
more ways than one, pal.
Well,
you're really in bad shape, Joe.
Well, Bob,
you have a warped outlook on the relations between men and women.
Let me just finish.
You keep talking about paying for it. What do you just go to hookers all the time?
No, I'm telling you, the average woman demands that a man pay for her, doesn't she?
Really?
Of course.
Well, maybe I have met different women.
Come on, Bob. You know you always have to pay for women. If not you, most men, almost all men nowadays, are still paying for women.
Are you kidding? Listen, there are a lot of guys who are leeching off of women like there's no tomorrow.
Very few. Bob, what I just wanted to conclude with is that when a woman has sex, she views it as she's giving of herself.
Are you married?
No.
I didn't think so. Have you ever been married?
No.
I didn't think so.
Well, I'm kind of intelligent, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Look at the divorce.
I tell you why you're intelligent, because you never had children.
Well, I do have a child, Bob. That's
really?
Yeah. Well, let me just finish.
Wait a minute. You've never been married. You have a child.
Well, you see, this is the point here again. When a man and woman have sex, who's vulnerable? Who's at risk? The man is at risk, not the woman, because the woman can decide whether to have an abortion or not, like I keep telling everybody. And with the woman I was going with lied to me, decided to have the child, stuck me for child support, and then gave me the child. So again, it's the man who oppressed.
It's your child. You act as though you didn't want it.
Well, in other words, what about Bob? You're pro-choice. How do you feel about all the women that don't want their children and have abortions and kill them? How do you feel about that?
Well, I don't consider abortion murder. If I did consider it murder, I would be against it.
Well, in other words...
You're a gavon. Get off my phone. You're a jerk, a sick jerk. What am I wasting my time with you for? George, you're on WABC. Hello. Hello. I think we have discovered a cornucopia of shortcomings in the Slick Willie administration. As a matter of fact, he's off to a monumentally historic beginning. No president in modern times has had his approval rating drop so quickly after being elected. But let me tell you one of the great outrages, and there have been many, in this young administration, which to me represents an army of occupation. But this douchebag, Janet Reno, the unfortunately recently confirmed Attorney General of the United States, covered up voter fraud in Dade County, Florida, for nearly 2 decades. During her confirmation hearings in early March, which, as you know, culminated in a unanimous vote for confirmation, a number of key senators decided not to review credible evidence that Madame Douchebag, as Assistant State Attorney and later State Attorney for Florida, refused to investigate charges of vote tampering and fraud that were made over a 20-year period. These charges are made in an eagerly awaited book, Vote Scam, The Stealing of America, written by two investigative journalists, brothers Jim and Ken Collier.
He should understand someone recognizing that, and he should actually be and show his intelligence by addressing that, and show his intelligence.
Addressing what?
Well, he should address the fact that he did endorse Clinton.
He didn't deny it.
Oh, well, he
didn't deny it. As a matter of fact,
he said
the last chapter in the book he talks about that. He's not denying it.
I'm not going to read his book, but you know what he did deny? He denied using his 47 years of experience as the background for deciding that Clinton was the best candidate. He decided that in an area that he did not have expertise, the economy, that was the basis of his choice of Clinton. And that, my friend, shows a lack of intelligence. And I think he knew that. I think that's why he was quiet. I know he's your guest. I know that you were quiet, too. But,
hey, look, when a guest is here, the guest can speak for himself, can he?
He should speak for himself. And I think that the gentleman who was older than Admiral Crowe showed more wisdom than Admiral Crowe.
You mean that old geezer that called, our first caller?
Who served time, did not brag about what position he held.
You're a gavon. Get off my phone.
I'd like to call...
Get off my phone!
I will call again. Thank you very much.
Get off my phone. I despise you. Get off my phone!
But
hang up. Will you please hang up?
If you do have a chance that you don't have to, that you don't want to listen to people like me, and that means you have to...
you know, I've heard enough. I've heard enough from you.
I'd be willing to use that time. I'd be willing to sit in there for
Get off my phone!
I really would be.
You gavon. I hung up on you. You wouldn't hang up. I hung up on you. What a jerk. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, we're still taking telephone calls. I know sometimes when I shout at people, everybody else says, oh, I'm not going to call. He might shout at me. Does it hurt? Did he get hollered at? Huh? Did he get bruises, cuts, scrapes, contusions? You're a bunch of sniveling cowards, if that's the case. Talk show, people who speak on talk shows don't represent concrete opinion.
Well, listen to Peter Jennings.
Well, Peter Jennings. Forget about Peter Jennings, will you? Thank you for the call.
Thanks.
What's everybody talking about Peter Jennings so soon for? That limp-wristed creep is still getting his newscast ready for later. John, you're on WABC. Hello.
You are so right about Peter Jennings.
Hey, Rob. I wanted to speak about animal rights. If you look at cartoons, you'll see that a lot of cartoons are not aware of animal rights. Take Ren and Stimpy, for example. They take Stimpy, who's a cat, and they make him really stupid. Does that mean that all cats are really stupid? No. So most cartoons, they have no clue what they're doing.
You're a sick cookie. Get off my phone and get yourself into a hospital right away. What a sick cookie.
Hi, Bob. I wanted to say something about this Waco situation. I think it was a real tragedy. I think the FBI really mishandled the situation. I think that whoever was responsible for ordering them to go in with those tanks should be fired. I know that they didn't call in any experts on cults. They just used their own hostage negotiators. And I really think that it's a tragedy that those children had to die and those people who were under David Koresh's spell had to die. And I just wanted to say that.
They should be fired because they went in with the tanks?
That's right.
What would you have done?
I think that they needed to bring in experts on cults, deprogrammers, to deal with those
get off, for heaven's sake. I thought we had some reasonable comment here. And just another AAA Sokola.
Away from violation of parole. I heard it, and I heard it, and I heard it.
You heard what?
About how rotten these 4 white cops were for doing that to that one poor black man. Now, granted, that beating looked awful severe. And they sure made it sound severe on CNN and every daggone news station I've been looking at. But then I can sit and watch these same newscasters try and make these FBI men righteous for what they've been... People, I mean, okay, this...
FBI men did what? What did the FBI men do to...
Well, let's put it this way. Let's go back to the beginning, all right? To the beginning of that incident, to where they were supposed to have some guns they weren't supposed to have. They didn't really know. They wanted to go in and find out. They were under suspicion. That's all. All of this started.
Why do you object to officers of the law doing their job.
I don't object to it.
Oh.
I just wonder why they can do it to these supposedly eccentric Christians, but they can't do their job to some black guy running away from jail.
Takes all kinds. The great unwashed. We're hearing people with an IQ maybe of 68, maybe. That's what's so fascinating about this program, how people with such low IQs can talk somebody into dialing the phone for them. That last guy obviously wasn't able to dial for himself unless he used the point on his head. Joe, you're at WABC. Hello.
Yes, Mr. Grant. This is another one of the unwashed that's been waiting to talk to you in regards to the assault.
You sound like one of the unwashed. You have that.
No, I know.
You have that gravelly voice to be unwashed.
Right, and you're a great guy. But at any rate, the point is, that an assault was made on that place when the ATF funds went there. And now Miss Reno was just on the television a short while ago, and somebody inquired of her, what are the charges against these people? And her answer was, I don't know. What did these people do to deserve this? When we have a situation in the prison there where they're throwing dead people out of the door, incidentally, most of them are white, and they just sit and talk.
What do you mean most of them? All of them?
Well, all right, all of them. But at any rate, now they just sent them in medical supplies and groceries. What's the difference between these two outfits?
Well, as I see it, there basically is no different whenever anybody is holding other people hostages. There's no difference. Thank you for the call.
Yeah, well, you didn't answer the question.
Well, I said, I answered that question, you boob. You said, what is the difference between them? And I said, basically, there is no difference.
Listen, you call these people unwashed, the people that are...
No, I'm calling you the unwashed. You're a gavon. You're a real dyed-in-the-wool, low-life gavon. How does that grab you?
You're a very bright guy. You are a very bright guy.
How did you know? How'd you figure that out?
Because I've been listening to you for years.
I see.
And
none of it is rubbed off on you.
No, I agree with you in most of the things, but you're as obnoxious as you can possibly be.
Me? Obnoxious?
And to nice people that know what they're talking about, you make these outlandish statements and you throw them off the air. You know.
Have I thrown you off the air?
Yes, you will. I'm sure you will. You would have. I kind of got you to hold on. I don't know how I did it.
Well, I don't throw people off the air. I just hang up on them,
but
that's all.
These people aren't unwashed. They know what they're doing.
No, you know what bothers me about guys like you, Joe?
What is it?
Instinctively, you're siding with the outlaws, and you're blaming... Listen, I feel bad that 4 guys trying to do their job got killed. Doesn't that bother you?
Yes, it does bother me. I feel terrible about them, but the leadership of that outfit are to be blamed for it.
Well... As far as the handling of the whole affair, I think it has been a botched job from day one.
Thank you.
A botched job from day one. What riles me up is the fact that some of you people calling, maybe it doesn't apply to you, I'm not so sure, but some of the people calling act as though they didn't know that David Koresh was hell-bent on a James Jones operation. But that was on his mind from day one. It was obvious. This guy was not going to come out. He kept stringing those people along, stringing them along.
But the point is, they weren't bothering anybody. They got into this little secluded
Wait a minute. No. When you say they're not bothering, let me ask you a very simple question. Why did they have all those high-powered guns and ammunition? It was supposed to be a church group, a religious group. What the hell were they doing with all those guns and ammunition?
What guns and ammunition? They haven't found any yet.
Well, a lot of it blew up in the fire. That's number one. Number two, the use of those guns was very effective when 4 ATF agents were murdered.
Now listen, generally when you serve a warrant on, I'm a retired police officer, so I got a little idea what it's about.
I hope you retired a long time ago, pal. You sound like you retired in about the year 1935.
Pretty close. But at any rate, the point is, I'm going to have to forget what the hell the point is. But at any rate,
I'm listening, Joe.
I know, and I'm trying to think of what I retired so long ago. That's the way my brain is. But at any rate, when they assaulted that place, if they were going to serve a warrant on, they should have went to the front door, knocked on it, and and then got some justification. When I first seen the thing, they were on the roofs with ladders and what have you, entering the place through the window. The one guy got shot standing on the roof, fell down the ladder. It was just a bad job from the beginning.
Well, on that we agree. Joe, I appreciate the call. You sound like you got washed up during our conversation.
Yeah, I did.
I mean that in a positive sense.
I hope so.
Positive sense.
I hope so.
You know why?
I'd like to be your friend.
The English language is a curious language. We say the guy's one of the unwashed, and yet if he's all finished, we say he's washed up. Do you notice that? What's so bad about being washed up? That means you're clean, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, Joe.
I never looked at it that way. Okay, Mr. Red.
Okay.
Red.
Right here at WABC, that was Joe. Here's another Joe, as in Joe Nolan. Metro traffic. All right. Oh, we're going to do an update? Oof, I'm knobbly. Crying out loud. I can't wait to get out of here. Greg.
Him, who had no childhood, he was justified in doing that, a violent crime, and that if, in fact, the response of the law to that ought not to be punishment or something like that, but the law ought to be changed. Could you tell me when and where that statement was made?
Why, you don't think she made that?
No, I want to know,
Well, she said it in Washington, D.C., and she said it one day last week.
Right.
But said it, she did.
Right. Okay. I think it's very illustrative of the fact that you're right on the money in fact, almost all the time about what's going on here. I think we ought to realize at this point that in light of what's going on in L.A. and things like this, to a law-abiding American citizen, right now it seems that in a lot of ways our government, by liberal judges and lawyers, is a bigger enemy of the people than even the enemies of the people in the street. I don't know, if you could comment on that. It seems almost like when you hear Bob Abrams making the statement today about justice in the Rodney King trial. I must say that I live in shame as a Jew of people like that being in charge here every day.
Well, Alex, what you are observing and commenting on is nothing more than pure, unadulterated, sickening pandering. Bobby Abrams has built his political career pandering. He has pandered to the blacks shamelessly, absolutely shamelessly. Janet Reno's comment, which was made in an interview last week, is also pandering. Those are code words when they say disadvantaged youth. If a young man with a deprived past, these are code words. What she really means is blacks. And she is continuing to curry favor with these groups. But sooner or later, the illogic of their positions has got to manifest itself, as it has been. Bobby Abrams I have absolutely no respect for. The only person I have probably less respect for than Bobby Abrams is the Spachim in Albany. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Yeah, Bob?
Yes,
I
Joe.
wonder if that leftist, liberal, lesbian attorney general is smug and happy now about ordering the killing of those women and children at Waco, Texas. She had to put tanks in there to subdue them. And I wonder if they didn't have tanks in Los Angeles, but they had tanks for these people who are going to attack the United States because they got rifles in there. They're going to create a war in that. That's all I've got to say, Bob.
I don't like defending her because I don't believe in her one single bit, but the tanks weren't used to attack these individuals.
The tanks punched a hole in their building and poured the gas in there, which they say wasn't lethal or wasn't poisonous. What the hell's the sense of putting the gas in there if it wasn't lethal or poison?
Well,
don't you think
John, slow down.
Don't you think that ignited the flame, Bob?
No.
Come on.
No, it did not.
Let's not excuse these liberals.
Hey, John, I'm not excusing liberals.
Yes, you are, Bob.
You're a hysteric jerk. Joe, you're on WABC. Hello.
Yeah, hi, Bob. I've been listening to about the excuses that because this group killed 4 agents. If you remember, about 5 or 6 years ago...
I can't believe, ladies and gentlemen,
let me finish.
Those of you out there who still have your senses, can you believe the parade of callers who are on the side of that scum David Koresh? Go ahead, Joe.
If you remember, about 5 or 6 years ago, up in the Bronx, there was a fella named Davis who was wanted for murder. He shot 6 cops. And he got
I know all
let
about
go,
the case. I know about the case.
And he got let go because
He
they
didn't let
said,
go. He's in jail.
Pardon me?
He's in jail.
Not for shooting the 6 cops?
No. Guess who he had as an attorney?
But that's
Skunkler, David Skunkler.
Yeah, but that's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is that to make an analogy that this guy was afraid that the cops were going to beat him, and he shot. Thank God he didn't kill them. But he shot 6 cops, and he was let go. Now these people, I don't know if any of them were wanted for murder.
I really got to get
Were
out.
Were any of them wanted for murder?
I really got to get out of here. I really do.
Well, why don't you answer me?
I really got. Yeah, David Koresh had a problem with that some years ago.
He was wanted for murder?
Okay, Joe, you should be happy. Four agents of the law are dead. You should be happy, Joe.
No, I'm not happy.
Celebrate with those other gavones out there.
Yeah, thank you, Bob.
Yeah. WABs. I can't believe these people. Linda, hello.
Senate Majority Leader George Mitchell actually said something like the Republicans are going to look really bad if they don't hurry up and get this filibuster over and let this jobs program, so-called, pass, because there might be some, they'll be to blame if there's unrest in the cities this summer because the kids don't have summer jobs. And I heard that, and I almost crashed because I can't believe that the Senate Majority Leader is so irresponsible as to, in effect, suggest and sort of give the green light to the so-called underclass to riot if this ridiculous redistribution of wealth bill isn't passed. What level of demagoguery are the Democrats willing to stoop to now?
They'll stoop to any level, and George Mitchell is one of the biggest lowlifes in Washington. You know that.
I just couldn't believe it.
Well, he said it.
President, I'd be calling for his impeachment.
Ray, he said it, Ray. He said it.
Well, that ought to be quoted. Bob, let me say something about this.
All I was calling about was I was really upset over the fact that you were yelling at that guy Rocco saying that David Koresh never left his compound. Now, they've been knowing that they have been investigating him for 8 months and that he has jogged around his compound, went into town for milk and bread. I don't see why, with a guy like David Koresh, that they didn't pick him up in town instead of stormtrooping this entire complex with all these women and children.
Mary, I don't believe,
that he ever left the compound.
He didn't leave, no, not since the 28th of February.
Well, what about before the 28th of February? I mean,
all right, okay,
this whole thing.
I don't know why you're so agitated. The fact is, since the 28th of February, that was the day they attempted to serve the warrant, and that was the day that Koresh and his followers killed 4 agents. Since that day, he has not come out of the compound.
They couldn't have done it any other time, though. They couldn't have just grabbed him while he was...
Well, yeah, prior to the 28th, that's true. But since the 28th, he's been in that compound. And why you're getting so agitated?
Well, because I cannot believe that all those children died in that compound.
Wow.
And for what?
Wow.
I mean, we could sit around and, give money to the world, but we couldn't hold off a little longer. And not...
Are you so naive that you think that a couple of days would have made a difference?
I think they could have waited as long as...
Get off the phone, you windbag. Get off the phone. They could have waited a little longer. So the kids would have died a couple of days later. He had no intention of sparing them. She doesn't even remember the story of Melissa, one of the girls who died in the flames. She had asked if she could go out. He said, no, nobody goes. I hate frauds like, what's her name, Mary of Monroe? Mary, if you're listening.
I couldn't believe what I heard down the dial from you this morning. Your friend Imus said he wouldn't be a bit surprised if the FBI and the ATF started the fires.
Well, why would you take a jerk like that? Why would you take a reformed sniffer? Why would you take a would-be comedian?
Right.
I don't know how to describe him. He's not a disc jockey. He's not whatever the hell he is.
He also took another shot.
An overpaid slob. Why would you take seriously anything he says?
I don't know. I thought maybe it was shtick, but then again, it wasn't.
I mean, all he's capable of is shtick. He hasn't made a reasonable... Look, I have to laugh at these guys. Him, Stern.
Yeah.
They started out being so-called comedians, shtickmeisters, disc jockeys. Now they want to do what I've been doing.
Mhm.
Have you noticed?
Yeah.
They all want to be opinion givers, commentators, whatever the heck.
He also took another shot at you. You know, he said, I wouldn't be surprised again if Bob Grant was would it surprise you if you found out Bob Grant was a cross-dresser? You know, and
oh, that's really funny. That's really funny.
And they still haven't given up on that Lenny the Jew bit with the German accent.
Yeah. Well, you know what he's doing, what Imus is doing is all the stupid, senseless lies that Stern told about me. Imus has picked them up. Now he's telling the same crap, you know. But that's all right. Hey, that's okay. It doesn't bother me.
Well, it wasn't.
The retrial of Limerick Nelson. Right now, as you possibly know, Andrew Stein and 13 rabbis, bearded and suited, are on their way to Washington to appeal to Janet Reno, who is right now breaking wind, walking from room to room at the Justice Department.
WABC, that guy's got an obsession with flatulence. Maybe that's the way he was born, instead of the traditional way. All the officials are afraid to take the heat, and we happen to have one of the most feckless presidents we've had.
Thank you.
In since Jimmy Carter. As a matter of fact, he's beginning to make Jimmy look pretty good, and that takes a lot of doing.
Well, at least Jimmy Carter had integrity.
At least Jimmy was not an evil, vicious, lying skunk. He was a jerk, but he wasn't a skunk jerk. You know what I mean?
Man, however, I've been out in Los Angeles, and one time on business, I personally watched 2 Los Angeles police take a man in custody while he was on the ground, handcuffed, and smash his head into the ground. Later on, I personally participated in an operation, and I didn't know you were going to be talking about Randall Terry when I was hanging on, but I participated in Operation Activity out there, and I personally watched the Los Angeles police take plastic garbage bags, put them against the faces of 70-year-old women to smother them. I watched not 10 feet away from me.
Are you a member of Operation
Rescue?
Rescue?
Yes, I am, sir.
You're a fanatic kook.
Well, let me...
And you want to know something, Bob? Now that I know what group you're a member of, I take nothing you say seriously.
Oh, well, just let me ask you, why would you call Randall Terry so crazy like Koresh? He's the only one in this country that seems to be really standing up strongly for life. Why do you call him crazy?
Well, I'll tell you why.
Why?
I'll tell you why. To make a statement such as he made...
Well, I'm not talking about that statement.
We would not have...
You had a guest before, a newsmaker, talking about the Holocaust, and people forget, and 20% of the people forgot the Holocaust. We have one
Why did
here in
you
the
interrupt
United
me?
States.
You wanted to know why I said he was almost...
Well, I know, but I'm not talking about that, but you said it before. You quoted what he said as far as the...
No, that isn't true. I didn't mention Randall Terry till just now.
Yeah, no, well, you mentioned after that what he said, but prior to that you said he was crazy like Koresh. No, he is Koresh. Before...
You got it all. Like everything else, you have it all goofed
No,
up.
but please...
Get off. Hey, listen.
All right.
Go abort yourself, you jerk.
Many people have been knocking New York lately, but I say that New York is number one in so many categories. We have the highest cigarette tax, the highest income tax, the highest parking and hotel tax, the highest birth tax, the highest medical insurance rates, the highest electric rates, the highest welfare bill, the highest unemployment, the highest prison courts. I even have to pay $1 a year on my insurance bill to help prevent auto theft. You know what I got to say? Mario, azendame. Tu se provenos facim.
Very good. That was a message to Mario. We haven't heard a message to Mario in a long time.
Oh, and
it felt good to hear a message to Mario. It's been so long. Hey, Mario, azendame. Tu se provenos facim. And he is. He absolutely is.
I made the mistake of tuning into your station during the broadcast times of those 2 Yenta douchebags, Lynn Samuels and Joy Behar. Joy particularly makes my skin crawl, but I want to say that. And just two quick points about Waco. Obviously, I feel the same way about millions of Americans, how badly it had to be for those poor children in there. And aside from that, I only wish somebody like Rodney King was a Davidian, and that he was trapped in that compound.
Well, I will wait for the inevitable to happen when Rodney King gets everything that's coming to him. He has the seeds of his own destruction within his warped personality. That will happen.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I hope people understand that out there, because, damn it, he deserves a lot more punishment than what he got. He's now an icon and a hero in the black community, and he is scum.
Hey, you said it, Andrew. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have two things, actually, for you to, ponder over. Number one, we've heard about the tragedy in Waco, and, what's happened. And, of course, Koresh is a madman. But what we fail to recognize or even realize is that Slick Willie the Kid is responsible for this tragedy more than anyone. Number one, and it was a long standoff, I understand, but the fact is, he and Mrs. Reno, or Rear End, I should call her.
No, not Mrs. She was never married.
That's why, probably.
And as far as I know, she never went on a date with a man.
That's probably why she's the way she is now. Anyway, the matter of the fact is that President Clinton allowed the tanks to go in there and drop the gas in the first place with kids in there. Now, he did take responsibility for the whole fiasco, but the point is...
Only 25 hours after...
Exactly, 25... I mean, what is this? This is the person we elect to replace Bush? What is this, some kind of a sick joke? And we wonder why we don't want women, us, Republican conservatives, don't want women in power. This is what happens when women
That isn't true. That isn't true. I don't know who said they didn't want women in power. You know what, Peter? You're a pretty stupid guy. Would you get off my phone? You're embarrassing me. Get off. Hang up. Would you hang up, please? Hang up. That's better. So long, Raul.
Bob,
so long, Raul.
Please, give me a break.
No, you don't give me a break. I'm trying to explain something to you, damn it.
Tell me.
Okay, you keep saying how great I am, and then you say, yeah, but you couldn't sleep last night because of something I had said. But you don't tell me what it was I said.
Well, no, your whole stance on the situation. Your whole stance, let's let the facts come in. Let's don't cloud them. Let's look at what happened over there. Why couldn't they surround the premises with the National Guard? Shut the water like they did and wait. We can wait. We wanted to starve Iraq with all the holes that could be punched in delivering. You know how everything goes underground. It can be delivered in the black market, and how many people. You saw the feckless idiot in Jordan, how he would help this guy who was going to try to control, which was an agent of communists, Russia. Russia was testing us at that point. They didn't know whether to have a little conventional war or to give up. I'm getting a little bit sidetracked, but why don't surround it with National Guard?
Okay, you said that. You said that 10 times.
Okay, let's cut it to once. But we went in with it with tanks, M1 tanks, and breaking it. That guy, if he was left alone, he had guns because he was afraid of the society we live in. He was an irrational nut. I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. But look behind.
All right. Okay, thank you, Raul. Thank you.
Okay, Bob. Thanks.
Ah, dear me. Hey, Benelli, bring my contract in here, will you? I tell you, I bring it in here, John. I know you got a copy of it in your file. Bring it in here.
Well, do you think we'll see an indictment of that senator from Illinois for leaking and promoting lies?
You mean the sanctimonious Paul Simon?
Yes, I do.
No, because, see, he's got you want to protect yourself. There are two ways to protect yourself. Either be lucky enough to be black or be a Democrat. And there's a double standard. If you're a Democrat, you get away with murder. Look at Inouye, Senator Inouye.
I'm a big fan, but sometimes I don't understand things that you do. For instance, you just called, correctly so, Paul Simon the sanctimonious one. Yet when you had him in the studio a while back, you're kissing up to him.
Kissing up?
Yeah, why don't you call him a sanctimonious one when he's right there in the studio with you?
I don't know what you mean by kissing up.
Whenever you have a guest,
you mean,
hey,
jerk. You ask a guy a question, you interview him, that's kissing up.
Yeah,
right?
Why don't you call him sanctimonious one when you got him there in the studio? That's what he is.
Yeah, I say, Paul, you're sanctimonious. Then
I'm not sanctimonious.
Hey,
Paul Simon is.
Do you think the schmuck would stay for the interview if I did that?
The hell?
Get off my phone, you greaseball gavon. I despise people like that.
A lot of liberals want to make this thing called a sin tax, the race tax on tobacco and alcohol.
Yes.
I think abortion and gay rights is a lot bigger sin that they want to legalize. And on some, and a guy, smoking a cigar and having a Budweiser on watching the NFL, I don't think that's such a big sin. I just, I don't like the hypocrisy, and that you hear in the liberalism. But on the other hand, it's not really a sin tax. It's just another way of raising taxes, period. Have a good weekend, Bob.
All right, thank you. I have to laugh at that term syntax. Is it a sin to smoke a cigar? Is it a sin to drink a bottle of beer? Is that a sin? It may be stupid, but is it a sin? It's a sin to say, I love you, when you don't mean it at all. Yeah, how many do I have here? 370, okay, 375 full programs and an hour and 18 minutes left of this one. Hey, Benelli, what are you going to do without me?
I point out the glaring contrast between a decent, hard-working cop like Officer Stacy Kuhn, who got on that witness stand knowing full well that jury was going to have to convict somebody. But he got on there and he assumed full responsibility for the actions of the men under his charge. Then you've got President Bill Clinton, who's constantly trying to weasel out of responsibility for anything that he thinks might give him some political heat. Maybe the slick one, instead of jumping on the politically correct bandwagon and joining the condemnations of Officer Kuhn, maybe he ought to take some lessons on character and leadership from him. This guy makes me sick. It sickens me to think that he's holding the same offices as men of stature like Washington and Lincoln, or even Bush. It's disgusting to watch what him and his America-hating cohorts did to a good man like Mr. Bush.
I feel as though we've been invaded by a foreign power, and until he's removed, I will not feel otherwise. Thank you. The third, possibly the fourth time. Now, Lee R. Bobker is obviously a very committed Democrat, member of the Democrat Party, and despises my politics. It's obvious. But he exposes himself as really being a two-bit hypocrite. I'll tell you why I say that after I read his letter to you. Dear Mr. Grant, by the way, he writes on very nice stationery. It says Vision Associates Incorporated, and he's the president of the company. Wow, I'm impressed. Dear Mr. Grant, and to show you how informed he is, a colon, not a comma. If it were a comma, that would be a friendly letter, but this is a business letter, so he puts a colon. You still don't get it, despite my ongoing correspondence. Now notice that. You still don't get it despite my ongoing correspondence. In other words, he thought his previous letters to me would have been so compelling that I would have changed my political views. You still don't get it despite my ongoing correspondence. It was you and Rush and the two Pats that the American people voted out in the democratic process. Now let's analyze that. Voted out. How could they have voted me out? I was not in any political office. I've never held political office for a very simple reason. I've never run for political office. Neither has Rush. Yet he says they voted us out. Neither did Pat Robertson. For that matter, neither did Pat Buchanan. Anyway, next paragraph. You all are pathetic, tired, old men. Sleazy, shouting epithets, mutants, faggots, double-gated. None of us uses the word faggots. Mutants and double-gated, yes. I didn't know that was an epithet. I thought mutant was a description. Left with nothing to say except accuse the best First Lady we've ever had. How do you like that? She's been First Lady not even 3 months, and he says she's the best we've ever had. Of having lesbian affairs with Janet, Reno, or Martina. No one ever accused her of having lesbian affairs with Janet Reno, nor for that matter Martina. I facetiously have said if Slick Willie had lost, she was going to leave him and move in with Martina. This man has no sense of humor. Certainly what you call the rational free discourse of ideas. And he puts that in quote. I don't use that phrase, the rational free discourse of ideas. Next paragraph. Well, your influence no longer counts. That implies it one time did. First the guy says, I never amounted to anything. Now he says, my influence no longer counts. Now here's the part where he insults all of you folks. You preach to the converted, the little band of racists and rummies, of fat beer bellies, red-veined noses, obese housewives, sitting by their TV, drinking, listening to the strident tones of Bob Grant. Am I on TV? I didn't know that. And how does he know that the people calling in have red-veined noses? How does he know the housewives are obese? How does he know that the fellows who call have fat beer bellies? I guess he sees all of you. The pathetic litany, quote, "We love you, Bob. Keep up the good racist work." Or, "You hit it right on the head." Or, "You're the smartest man I know." God save us. You are right about one thing. It's time to get out. Give it up. Go home. Take your little groups of adoring idiots to wherever on tours to nowhere. Try and get it. You were rejected, voted out. Now, here we come again with the voted out. How could I be voted out, Bob Kerr? Hey, you jerk! How could I be voted out? I wasn't in office. Bill and Hillary are in. Hillary's in? What was she elected to? For 4 years, then for 4 more. He will get 75% of his program through and destroy Bob Dole in the process. She will offer the country the very first health care reform program that will work after 12 years of nothing. Flim Flam Florio will be reelected. Can you really see New Jersey voting for Whitman? Dinkins will be reelected. The Democrats will take care of the filibuster process in the next congressional elections. Goodbye, Bob. And then it's a signature, but the signature looks like the scrawl of a 3-year-old who is autistic. And it's signed Lee R. Bobker, President. I'll show compassion for this Fink. I won't tell you what city he's writing from or his address. I'll spare that. But I've ignored his letters up till now, and maybe that's what he wanted, some recognition. Hey, Bob Kerr, if you're listening, you finally made it. You got the recognition you were looking for. You little nothing ball. You creep. Eat your heart out. I'm here and you're there. And the only way anybody even knows your name is because you wrote me a letter. I'm going to save this letter, put it in the archives to illustrate some of the stupidity that I have to put up with. Well, no, that's more than stupid. Man's probably not stupid. Man's just so full of hate.
On the right field line, it is a base hit. See ya, home run for Don Mattingly.
My foot, he doesn't hit home runs anymore.
Ready to tame the Wild West. This weekend, Mattingly, Boggs, Tartable, and company kick off a 7-game homestand with 3 games against Lou Piniello's Seattle Mariners. Friday at 7:30 and Saturday and Sunday at 1:30. Besides great baseball, check out this lineup of giveaways for kids 14 and under.
They got to give stuff away to get them in the park, huh?
Candy Autographed Ball Day. And on Sunday, Starter presents Batting Glove Day. But it's not over yet. This homestand also features visits from the Oakland A's and the California Angels. Tickets are on sale now at the stadium, Ticketmaster, and the Yankees Clubhouse stores. So get into the swing of things.
They go to third. It is not a dime. It's a triple for O'Neill.
Yankee Baseball 93. It's where the action's gonna be.
Oof. Let's see.
Both shows, and I loved what he said, and I happen to have taped it.
There has never been a caller in the history of talk radio, not just this program, but any talk radio, where a caller has had such an impact as Frank.
Frank is phenomenal, and he hit the nail on the head once again. I called a friend of mine to let him listen to what Frank had said. This gentleman who's unemployed right now, I spoke to you about it a number of weeks ago, trying to get a hack license. I don't want to get into that, but he said Montel Williams has a person on here who's been locked up 57 times, and he's on Montel Williams. How old do you think this fellow was, Bob Grant?
22.
12 years old. Locked up 57 times, okay? On Thursday, the Wall Street Journal reported another example. In Minneapolis, they were meeting, the local authorities and politicians were meeting with gangbangers to straighten out racial problems in their city. We are giving an audience to gangbangers, most of which were probably been locked up numerous times in their life, and had they been serving their full sentence,
wouldn't have been able to attend this meeting because they would have been pulling the 30 years that they should have received. So we're not handling the criminal element in society.
Well, I'd like to preface my remarks by saying that Frank from Queens, he's a putrid little phony. When he used to call the late, unlamented Alan Combs program, he used to have a whole different shtick. And